Welcome to the Warrior Gamer Headquarters podcast.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jenna Carlton, also known as the Millennial Veteran. I'm a Navy veteran, and I started the support group called the Millennial Veterans. And my main goal is to try to get younger veterans into the awesome veteran community and make them feel welcome because they are the most vulnerable population of veterans. So, yeah.
All right, great. So I'm interested here. Where'd the name come from besides thinking the obvious? Uh how'd you get this nickname and what is it about and why does it mean something?
Yeah, so it actually started out, me and my husband, we went to the Legion. We're like, okay, we're veterans now. Let's go to the local Legion. And then we realized that we are the youngest by a few generations. So they would call us the millennials. Oh, we need more millennials here. So I just kind of took it and ran with it.
Okay. So can you talk about I tell you, I know the Legion. I was on the show once. At least those folks, very awesome, but everyone is aware that there's a generational situation happening, right? That there's new identities that need to be formed in some of these older VSOs. And so I'm very interested in your experience with that. And then like a lot of people have went to some of these VSOs and were like, and then just laughed and didn't do anything. But you actually took action and had energy to do something to stopgap something. So tell me a little bit about that and why.
Yes, so many people have bad experiences. I really didn't have a bad experience. I liked our Legion. I kept going there. But it was what it was. Like it was convenient, cheap beer, good food. It was a place to hang out on Saturdays. And I just, the more I started talking with other veterans, because I was wondering, where are veterans my age? I was 23 when I got out. So I'm like, where are people like me? And of course they're all online and definitely on Instagram. And so when I started connecting with more and more, I realized that that's not what our generation really wants out of support, like a VSO, at least, not in our age group. Like a lot of us have kids, we're moving around, going to school. We're going to be working during the day. We can't attend meetings. So in terms of what we want. It's a little different. We have the same problems generationally coming back from war, integrating into society, but how we want to remedy those and is going to be different.
Okay, so what was your goal here? Like you noticed some problems, you notice an opportunity, you self-identified with it. Like what's the outcome here? Like what's the goal? What are you trying to do?
I'm trying to get more better because when I first got out, I mean, I was I isolated myself. I thought there was something wrong with me. I'm like, why can't I find happiness? Why can't I find purpose after I get out? And then I saw like my friends start to get out and they kind of went through that same thing, like they'll always do that big post. Oh, here's me with my DD-214, going on my next journey. And then it'd be like radio silence from them for a while. So unless you're picking up the phone and calling them, you realize that that's just kind of the nature of it. And I wanted to really shed light on that and show that that's kind of normal for us to go through anytime you're in a transition. You're going to kind of want to exclude yourself from the world. But for veterans, that is especially troubling because you're already vulnerable. You're already having, not the best coping mechanisms if you pick them up during service. And we have a huge suicide problem in the veteran community. So you want to reach out to people at that point. So that was my goal, was to get veterans in that age group into the veteran community where they have support and resources.
Can I ask, you mentioned the suicide issue. That's one of the reasons that we give our time here every week, because it's one of those things where you don't really know what to do, but you want to do something. From the millennial point of view and your organization, what types of things have you launched, and what are you doing on that front?
Right. So I just want to be clear. We're just a Facebook group. It's not an organization yet, but really just more of a support group, I like to call it. And so we've kind of formed over the years. I've done a lot of just interviews showing stories of what people go through, talking about, a lot of people who've had suicide attempts, and just talk about it and kind of normalize, like, yeah, I've been there. Um, if you're there right now, like, I hear you, and there's support for you. We've also had set up like a few chats. It's like kind of like how you guys have on Discord. It's the same thing on Facebook. We have like sobriety chats, mental health, give and get support, those kind of chats. Just because I feel like younger people, and you guys probably know this too, like, they just feel a lot more comfortable talking online, even with strangers, more likely with strangers than people that are close to them, that they know, because family and friends, if you're moving back home or moving somewhere, they don't understand what you just been through, and they don't even know what to look for when it comes to those mental health issues.
That's great. Bilal, I feel like this is sort of like up your alley here. This is a gap of a demographic that I don't think we've spoken about on the show yet. I mean, these are folks doing one tour, maybe, right? Jenna, one tour, maybe two, separating, and then, I'm not the typical story, right? And I'm online. I still need a support group. I still went through many of the things that people have gone through if they're 10, 20 years or 30 years in service. And it's really not a resource that I relate to, right? So, Bilal, I'm interested in your thoughts on that. I'm still a little bit digesting it, but I feel like she's onto something here.
No, definitely. Like when you look at Warrior Gamer, most of our members are millennials, right? That's a fact because one of the things that veterans bonded with most is gaming. But if you look at the older veterans, it's not like they had games where they were at, right? Or they didn't necessarily grow up with the same culture that we did. And so Warrior Gamer is very similar to the millennial veterans in a way because our demographics are so intertwined. And this is a need. Like many of the subclinical problems, Healthy Gamer was on our podcast and she mentioned subclinical problems. A lot of these problems that you're mentioning of readjusting into civilian society, this is stuff that can't always be directly intervened on by some grand resource, whatever that resource may be. Sometimes all you need is somebody to talk to. Sometimes all you need is a chill environment. But like you said, as you're moving around, you don't really have that. You're already online. You might as well bring the resources there. And so I see a lot of connections with what you're doing and our organization. It's really awesome.
Yes, definitely. And that's what kind of got me interested, is because we have like a gaming chat as well. And I'm not too familiar with gaming, but like, by learning more about what millennial veterans want, like, I see the connection. I can see how people would feel more like, when you're driving, like, you're more likely to open up with someone because you're both focused on something else and you don't have to make eye contact. And I feel like that could happen while you're gaming, like, just passing, saying something or mentioning, and having that conversation, people might feel more likely to open up. Would you guys agree? Or maybe have you had an experience like that?
Oh, plenty in the Discord. I'm on there pretty much regularly, as often as I can be. And we'll play games, and then out of nowhere, somebody will say, "Hey, I'm going through this thing. The VA resource is causing me trouble," or "Hey, I just heard that a friend of mine is in the hospital for alcohol use, and can you just keep him in mind? It's bothering me. Can somebody talk to me and such?" And we even have a recon care program. Actually, it's just when things get a little bit more serious, there's like this bot that you can click on, and it'll alert our peer-to-peer support staff, and then we can have a one-on-one conversation with somebody. People who've been there in the Discord very actively, they use it just as much as somebody who's never been there and says, "Hey, I just need somebody to talk to right away." And that creates a connection, and that allows people to move forward.
And I definitely see that in my I work at a university, so our population is 18 to 24, and they will be in game and on headset and express themselves in ways that they wouldn't normally, just face to face with somebody, for sure. And our Discord too, just like Bilal said, it has a lot of things that are not about gaming in there. You know, my father died. I failed this test. I don't know if I'm going to keep my scholarship. Like real life issues. And one of the things I love about gaming is it builds that resilience and that communication skills, and it helps them deal with those real life issues. And I think that's why, you know, I wouldn't, your Facebook group is a huge part of the world of millennials right now. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of those things are part of the fabric of the way, you know, that generation communicates. So it makes perfect sense to have that space. If you would add to your communication methods, what would you add? What, like if you had a magic wand and you could do anything you wanted?
I would love to I would love to have like our moderators trained and like have someone always online, almost like setting a watch. You know, luckily we haven't had too many people reach out with very urgent matters. But you know, there's always like that you know, it's bound to happen as our group's growing, and you just want to be ready for that. So I've I have as many moderators as I can drum up, but you know, I'd love to have someone professional in there when that does eventually happen.
That's fantastic. And I think
Yeah.
that's another thing we're trying to do is sort of reframe the conversation about how powerful peer-to-peer support is, but also connect that to someone professional.
Yes, yeah, taking that next step and just having that handoff, and what's the next step for them, because you know, like we're connecting online, people are all over the country. How do we find what's the resource for them? It's kind of hard, you know. And something as veterans we get a lot is here's a list of resources, like you know, it's just hard to have it tailored to like, oh, you're in Kentucky, I know of this great program, I actually went through it. Like if we could have more of that, that would be helpful too.
Oh, that's
And
fantastic.
part of the magic of peer-to-peer is destigmatization. Like you probably don't want to, if you say you have a problem, whatever that problem is, or a concern or a question, here's a resource, go, right? As you mentioned, it seems very black and white. And we all know that, you know, veterans and humans, whoever you are, you're not just black and white, you know. You're not going to be somebody that is shipped off to one area and then to this resource and then to that person, right? It's like, what is that, right? But when you have a peer-to-peer connection, you destigmatize all of that. And it doesn't become a matter of, oh, did you use this resource or did you connect with this person? It's who are you? What is going on? Do you even need to get sent off to these resources, or can we just talk to you? Right? Do we have to give you the big gun intervention, or can we just have a fireside chat, whatever it might be? Right? It eases the playing field a little bit. That way, we're not quick to pathologize a problem, if that makes sense.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I think so many people that are willing to help have been through it themselves, so they know what they would have wanted to hear in that moment. And one of the coolest things I've seen through our group is I'll see someone who initially joined the group and was reaching out for help, and now I see them as someone offering help. And like to me, like like there's nothing more cool than that, to see like most people who have reached out for help, they want to pass it on and you know, help others. So it's always really cool.
That's
And speak,
fantastic. Are you tracking that just out of curiosity? Because, you know, that's the other thing that I love about our podcast. You never know who's watching. So there may be resources for you, or that's why I asked about a wish list, because you never know whose ears you're going to hit, particularly with Ken's big giant network over there.
we
Yes,
have,
yeah.
I was gonna say, as you see, there's this never happened. So as
yeah, that
You
you're
never
making
talked it
small.
up. It's
happened.
the law of attraction, Ken. You
It,
talked him up.
I did. But I wanted to direct the viewers' attention to the website that I brought up, which is jennacarlton.life, where you have your podcast episodes on there, right? You have your veteran workbook. So I'm going to pop that on here. This is actually published on Amazon. Congratulations. I think that's pretty cool. I know how hard that is. So I think you guys should see it, right?
Yeah.
Great. So I will have all these in the show notes. When folks want to come out here and purchase this, I think this is such a great idea. I've not seen anything like this, so congratulations on that. It's pretty awesome. And then you have your Instagram page, which I'm going to pull up here right now. Boom. So yeah, 33,000 followers. Congratulations. That's amazing. It's incredible. And you can see the posts here all about transition and getting out, and which is great because I'm retiring this year. So I will definitely be visiting all of your resources here as well. So I just wanted to make sure we got this on the screen for folks. And their
Congratulations, by
Facebook
the
page.
way.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm gonna pull up your Facebook. There it is.
You know, they gave Ken an axe to add to his axe collection.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's on the ground over there. Still have to put it up, but okay, here we go. And boom. All right, so here it is, Millennial Veterans Group. Hit join group, everybody, and you'll see all that. You'll get the questionnaire, all that stuff. I'll fill that out. So pretty cool. Anything you want to add on all these references and resources for folks as we bring them up on the page?
Yeah, so I'm in kind of a transition phase. Like I mentioned, I'm moving, and I just I'm ending the podcast. So Vet Chats won't be anymore as of June 2nd. That will be my last IG live. I went live every Sunday at 9 p.m. for about 3.5 years, and I'm just burned out, and I feel like, as much as I love it, and there's nothing more than I love connecting like this, like right here, one-on-one, there's nothing like it. I think you can all agree, but I don't know. That's why my last episode is called The End of an Era.
Good for you. And all things come to an end, and really, like, you got to move on, right? So there'll be bigger and better things. But I will offer to your audience that they can come here for a bit. And this, it's pretty awesome that you ended that one and you're showing up to us the day after, right? It is, yeah, wow. Yeah, day after. So that's pretty cool.
Literally.
Good for you. Yeah.
Of all of those things, what were some of your favorite episodes that you did?
Oh my goodness. Actually, so I have 3 more episodes, and I have a feeling that some of those are gonna be my favorite. But honestly, like the thread through my most favorite ones are just people that were so vulnerable and really opened up and just talked about things that, people who were watching live were like, you know what, like, we need more conversations like this. And it's just always, so humbling to hear that. So, and to know, like, it was all like, it was all meaningful, and it really was worth it.
You've had Emmy award-winning veterans on here. That's pretty awesome.
Yes, Mark Harper.
Wow, pretty
All right,
awesome.
I can't remember. Are you guys going to Military Influencer Conference this year?
I have not committed, so we'll see how it goes.
Okay, he's the guy that runs that.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You
Good. I'm
should
gonna
probably
send a
commit,
LinkedIn.
Ken. You'll have more time now.
I know. I've like, it's crazy. Like, all these conferences I've been able to do because I was actually working, and now, like,
Wow.
yeah, it's 30 September. Okay, yeah, I'll probably do that. I appreciate you bringing that. I'll put that on my calendar now.
Yeah, that's where seriously I felt like I found my people for one of the first times in my life. I was like, wow, like everyone I met, I didn't feel weird bringing up anything. It was just, it was pretty cool.
It's great. And I'm sure if folks are listening and they want exposure to the military demographic, that would be a great place to do their sponsorship package, right? I'm sure. Awesome.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure he'd appreciate that.
Get in front of a lot of people there.
Yeah, I bet. All right. Well, actually, I'm gonna run this by some folks too, so I appreciate that. All right. So, you say you don't game that much.
I don't, but I feel like I could still find a place in this conversation.
That's right. We have had lots of folks who were on the show who don't game. Actually, Joshua Taro, the founder of of our foundation, doesn't really game, and he's not military. So, which I think is beautiful because it's that's just who we are. We don't doesn't matter where you've been through, you know, where you come from, where you're going, but as long as you're here present, you're here with us, and you're genuine, authentic, you're accepted. So, we have not yet found a person who didn't game at one point, and that has had a direct influence on their life. So growing up, what games did you play? Don't have to be electronic, but that would be nice if you could tell us what you were doing with video games when you were growing up. What was your thing?
Oh yeah, I feel like I had an unhealthy relationship with games, but like the Wii was the only gaming console I ever had, and like Wii
Right.
bowling, me and the neighbor boys, we would be so competitive. Like we would play like Rock Band, Guitar Hero. Me and my husband still play Guitar Hero. It's so much fun, and like all those songs, it really helped me get into music. I guess. And then I did have a Game Boy when I was probably in like third grade, and I would play this Lizzie McGuire game, and I got so mad that I couldn't beat the one of the last levels that I threw it and it broke, and my mom said, "I'm never buying you another video game again." So,
That's funny. Bilal, you talked about that, right? Where the games now have fixed that, where like they're not incredibly hard anymore. Like now the word gamify is this never-ending constant scaling of rewards and badges, right?
Kind of, sort of. I mean, games have gotten a lot more complex nowadays than they have back in the day, but they've also made it more rewarding to play. I mean, recently, I've been playing Hades 2. If you're familiar with Hades, but Hades 2, it's really awesome. Basically, it's a game where you have 4 stages and you're gonna die like right away, and then you're gonna restart. And you're gonna go further, die, restart, further, die, further, die. And it's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You're gonna get knocked down several hundred times. But what they do is, as you get knocked down more based off the resources that you find in your runs, let's call them, every time you try to go through the levels, you get resources that give you power-ups. You may unlock new weapons, new perks. You may meet new people who may give you little shortcuts and hints and stuff. And so there's so much reward to the beatdown that even if you lose, you're like, okay, at least I came out with something. And a lot of the games, they kind of feel like that. I feel like back in the day, they just kind of made a game with a clear objective, and so you either did it or you didn't. It can be kind of black and white, but today it's changed up quite a bit. Yeah.
yes, I totally get that with the rewards. I was on like level 900 something in Cookie Jam. It's kind of like Candy Crush, but it's different. And like it really does set you up. Like you're almost going to beat the level, and then you don't make it, but you get this reward. So you're encouraged to try it again because you have
Mhm.
more perks this time. Yep. I totally see that.
Yeah.
And that's the model that is really, I mean, the mobile gaming area is taking off faster than any other segment right now. And one of the models that is just ubiquitous is the free game with in-game purchases. And they have in-game purchases that keep to where they'll say, keep your rewards, keep your level, you're gonna lose this. So there are psychologists out there. Actually, Angry Birds was developed by psychologists who studied the human the tendencies and where you get angry and where you relax, and they timed that game to perfection. And it was one of the first that went viral because it had a research base to it for mobile.
I could see that because they know to get you just enough where you want to quit, but then they do something. It's almost like gambling machines, how they just know how to get you to put in one more dollar or one more bid, whatever.
Yeah, what's really interesting is not a lot of people know this, but mobile phones in many other countries are governed by the government, their usage. And so to use the infrastructure, you have to agree to have so much interaction with the phone. So they send surveys, and they also sell the ability to send surveys to these millions and millions of demographic folks across like Africa and in particular, places in Asia. And so like these games have kind of piggybacked on that. Like these people are always tethered to their phones. They know like that's how they interact, that's how they do their selling and bartering and all that stuff. And so like it's interesting to see the future of gaming moving to mobile because there's way more people on mobile. And I think one of the problems is trying to devise the game so that they fit across all the different devices because many of them are flip phones still, so they're gaming by just, ones and zeros basically. So these advanced Halo games, you can't do that on a mobile phone. So it's pretty interesting stuff. So you're all hitting the nail on the head there.
Can I share my screen quick?
Yeah.
This is a report from Newzoo about the gaming industry. This is the 2024 data. So we've got $90 billion in mobile compared to 29, compared to 53 in console games, and then browser is tiny right now. And mobile's just growing at an astronomical rate. The whole industry's growing, but this Newzoo does a great job sort of defining who they talk to, and they survey millions of people. But it's really interesting as we move through the space, coming to understand what gaming's going to be when you consider the whole world population rather than just here and our focus here.
Is very interesting. I have no idea what that's going to look like. Like I can't stand using my phone for stuff. The screen is so small, like it's just annoying to me, you know. So that's where it's moving. It's very interesting to see. Like I wonder, Bilal, like or April, like, do you think there might be almost like crowdsourced gaming where like it takes 5, 6 different people and all of their phones are using compute power together, like distributed computation in order to power the game? Like, do you think that might be like a thing?
I think that'd be amazing.
Mm.
You
And
just kind
it's
of blew my
here.
mind with that.
It's here in so many spaces. Like the games that are blockchain based, like Axie Infinity, those games loop people bring, like you said, not everybody has a high powered phone, but people come together and use their data plans together and use their resources together. And in overseas there is more of a tendency to go out to cafes to game with people. Even if you're gaming individually on a mobile, you're still not at home doing it. You're somewhere where there are other gamers around you. So that definitely I could see that happening for sure.
I think the big thing about mobile games that you mentioned, why it's pretty big, it's mostly big in East Asia as opposed to the United States. But you can think about the demographic. It all comes down to what the demographic is doing, right? They're spending the vast majority of their time either working or studying. They don't really have a lot of time to kind of go home, sit down, and play games for like an hour or two, right? It's just kind of when availability pops up. I know that's the case for me a lot since I'm just pretty much studying all day. And so one of the games I play, which I've spent probably $100 on, is a mobile game. I actually show you right here. This game, you might be familiar with it. It's called Archaea. It's a rhythm game. And just like Guitar Hero, just like Rock Band, you see the notes, you tap them, boom, whatever, right? Those games are really fun. And let me tell you, it helps a lot with the stress relief. And sometimes I really don't get the time to play like a full round of Rocket League, Street Fighter, whatever the heck. But these mobile games, yeah, they're everywhere. They're here to stay and they're going to continue growing. It's good stuff.
We've got a Call of Duty mobile team now. Again, one of our kids from India started it because he couldn't believe we didn't have any mobile teams. Are your millennials, Jenna? I know you said you have a gaming channel. Do you know what types of games they are into? I know you said you're not into gaming, but
Yes, most of them are like PC games, from the conversations I've read. So I would say that's pretty common. And maybe that's something that, or types of games where you want to add others to, are the ones pretty popular, trying to get other usernames to involve them.
All right. So I heard you drop a little nugget. I didn't let it escape that you were doing the rhythm games and it got you into music. So what are you doing with music? What's that about?
Oh no, I'm not doing anything with music, but I just I love music. I love playing music. I love to sing karaoke. I'm not good, but that doesn't mean I won't get up there and sing. Um,
I think that's most
but
people, at least the ones I've seen.
yes. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we're not too
actually,
far off then, actually, because Guitar Hero was what got me into music. I don't play any instruments, but when I pick them up, I have a lot of fun playing them. And I keep telling myself I'll learn, but it just hasn't happened. I haven't invested in it. Someday. Someday though. Yeah.
and Beat Saber has a wonderful connection to music right now. People, again, I'm always advocating for the content creators, and in Beat Saber, you can choose your own music. Again, pay, that's another thing to pay for, but you can choose your own music. You can record yourself playing to the music that you chose. You can, play against your friends, play with your friends. There are leagues now. There are collegiate leagues for Beat Saber. So that may be something that's fun for your group actually to do. They're wonderful icebreakers and wonderful reasons to bring people together. I think that gaming events can be just a joy for that any demographic, but particularly millennials because they are native at it. They grew up with controllers. You grew up with controllers in your hands.
A-
Yes, I think that would be so cool. I just wrote that down.
April, if you remember a few episodes ago, we talked about like the magic of rhythm,
Yeah.
right? And music. And like I shared a story with my kids. I mean, they're dancing maniacs. I mean, the Just Dance, we don't even need the game. We just play the YouTube videos and they're insane. And like, and my dad's, super getting older and like he's gaming now and like the rhythm action. And there's just something in humans and that rhythm, that frequency, repetitive motion, a lot of children and even adults with developmental issues, um, just that the rhythm activity, like they just get to it like a duck to water. It's very interesting stuff. And it's really cool that you shared that. I never got into them, but I see the allure and I do with my kids. And it's like, man, this is like, they'll go 2 hours. Like it's insane. So it's pretty cool. And I'm interested to see like how that has influenced sort of your rhythm of life, and how you react with people, because Bilal brings up a lot with like failure acceptance. So does April, and like people in games, they're able to uh, persevere longer. How has that influenced sort of your approach on life? And like, look at all the amazing stuff you've been doing. Like it's incredible. So like, has that had any influence on that?
Yeah, I think like games like Sims or more interactive like story games just kind of encouraged me to be more comfortable in an online persona and like really make myself a character online, like the millennial veteran. And a lot of times in the beginning, especially, that was kind of my armor. Like, this is just my online persona. I would never go up to someone in person and be like, "Hi, I'm the millennial veteran." I often don't even mention to people that I'm a veteran unless it comes up or like they ask or something. So like a lot of people like, so it's definitely like kind of like that character play like from those early games that I would play, I think has helped me just have tough skin online because I've had a lot of hate my way. A lot of people don't like to see a woman veteran, being outspoken, especially like myself. I served 4 years. A lot of people would say I haven't earned that place. And okay, not a lot of people, but just a lot of loud voices would like to point that out. But that's kind of my point on why I'm here, is because a lot of younger veterans only did 1 or 2 terms, and they have the highest suicide rate. So we need to focus our efforts on them.
Yeah,
That's
that's
beautiful.
that's great. Like to hear that you acknowledge that, and it's something that I don't think we actually have ever spoken about. So I do think you've earned it. It doesn't matter if you served. I mean, you putting on the uniform doesn't matter how long. I mean, you stepped up, in my personal opinion. So I'll poo-poo on all those people, but like your demographic is certainly underrepresented, and I'm interested to hear like what headways that you've experienced in that, because this is something we have not talked about. So if you're willing to talk about it, um, how being a first termer and a female has affected your ability to have a voice.
Right. I think I've gotten in my own way a lot. Like,
Mm.
who am I? That was just such a short chapter in my life. Who am I to continue advocating and, be a voice for veterans, especially when I have such a limited experience. But I really had to, I had to look around and be like, if there was other people doing it, I would love to lift them up. But, like, not a lot of women identify as veteran in the first place, because it's not something, we're not wearing the shirts. We're not as easily identified by others as a veteran, just by how we look. So, and a lot of veterans, every time I tell someone I am a veteran, I get the look up and down. So it is really stigmatizing to say that you're a veteran as a woman. So I get that. And a lot of my women veterans groups, we kind of talk about that in person. So I have to get over my own ego telling me things that aren't true, and realize, like, you need to show up and be a voice. I also did an internship at the House Committee of Veterans Affairs in Congress for a summer. And that's really when I realized the power of saying you are a veteran and being a woman in the veteran space, and how important it is to acknowledge that.
Well, I'm thrilled you're here. My mom was I know I've said this before, but my mom joined the Marine Corps in 1963 as a Black woman in the South. She tried 3 times, threw her out 3 times, and she kept coming back. And she said, I am a Marine. You guys just need to go, make the, we need to make this work. So I understand. I've grown up on military bases, and I'm thrilled that you're here and thrilled that you find your voice. It's not just a military issue, it's a worthiness issue for women all over the world, myself included. You're like, why should I be making all this racket about XYZ when there are other folks who are, much deeper in the mix with a lot more experience. But I'd say, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, and thank you for doing it. And I think that it's even more important that you're doing it with 4 years in and as a female, because there are other people who have that same, they identify military. My uncle's like that. He served for 2.5 years, but for the next 50 years, that was his identity. I'm a Marine. So I think you are doing amazing work. And then what would you tell other women who are hesitant to own their own power, hesitant to own their own voice?
I would say it really does take time, because it took me a few years to even, um, bring it up in a classroom. Like when I went to college, I was kind of hesitant. I wanted to really distance myself from the military. And I think a little of it was from, like, I can make it without the military. So many people told me I wouldn't. So we really want to separate ourselves. And a lot of people go through that. I think no matter how long you've served, you go through that. So I just want to tell women that you belong in the veteran community. Just because those around you don't look like you, or, especially age, gender, whatever, it doesn't mean you don't have a space there. And also, MST, military sexual trauma, is so high in the military that, a lot of women have such bad experiences that that's another reason why we just want to distance ourselves when we get out. So I openly speak about what I went through as a survivor of MST, and just hope that I can empower others to, you know, you can hold space for being like holding the military accountable and being upset with what happened, and but also be grateful for your service. It's such a it's such a complex thing, but it's true for so many of us, and so many of us feel like, well, I went through this and I came forward about it. I can't love my service either. So, yeah.
All right, now we're getting juicy here. I like it. So, it's I will say, as someone who's put in 25 years, the improper actions that are associated with MST are everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere. Doesn't matter what gender, sex, it's so ubiquitous. And I am so like it just revs me up inside, because I've had 2 incidents myself personally. And as a male, like, there's no voice for us, right? I mean, as a victim, right? So there's just no voice. So like I get where you're coming from, and I wish that we could change that. And it's so bad that Congress has to come in and take the powers of enforcement away from the military services, right? So because we're so dysfunctional. But I'm interested in your thoughts. Like, you've been with the House. If you could sit in with DoD leadership and maybe Senate or whoever, and they're like, hey, how do we help fix this? Like, what would be your message so that everyone who serves comes out and they're proud of the service and they have a voice within and on the outside?
Right, and I wish there was something they could implement and just be like, "Okay, here's the program. This is gonna solve the issues." But honestly, it's a culture issue. It's just the culture of the military being majority a men's arena for, so many hundreds and hundreds of years. And it's very in recent history that women are involved in the uniform services. I mean, we've had our different roles in war, but really an equal war role in war. It's just, it's such a clash of the cultures of the old order of thinking and this new order. So it's a cultural problem. And that's hard to fix, right? It's so nuanced, and it really takes time, and it takes tough conversations, and it takes being vocal about it.
And it takes one good guy or one good gal. Like if you think about the journey from changing Major League Baseball, no black people. One guy turned that whole thing around, and everybody else followed suit because they wanted to compete. So when Ken says, what would you do? And I think that's a question we just have to keep asking over and over, ask ourselves, ask each other, and really just sort of keep that alive. That what can we do individually? How do we address this? How do we acknowledge it? How do we address it? How do we change that culture of brutality? Because that's just not cool, as they say. And but you're right. But on the one hand, it's not cool. But on the other hand, we're creating soldiers to go kill people. So we need a culture of brutality. So there's that makes it really, like you said, complex. So that's a rough question, Ken. I don't know what I would say in the DoD about that either. And I usually have something to say about everything.
Well, I think whenever I've spoken to folks at the highest levels on this, to include the director of personnel at DoD, and I think it's the accountability system. The performance evaluations they're atrocious. They're terrible. So you can't find those people who will be poisonous 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 years later when they're leaders and they have this track record of being number 1 or number 2 or number 3 of X many, and they just feel infallible. And so with great responsibility, comes great moral responsibility as well. And so people tend to go opposite. There's a great study on that. More power you get, the more ethically challenged you become. And so that's what I think. Just have a really bad ability to analyze our people at the psychological level. But Jenna, like, awesome talk. It's a topic that doesn't happen often, that we've never spoken about, and really challenged us. And I think this should be a topic that we revisit. I think Bilal will echo that, and so will April. It's very interesting. So if folks want to get a hold of you, I will have things in the show notes. I actually just did a friend request on Facebook for the first time in I don't know how many years. You're it. So I don't use it much, but wait, that's an interesting question. You're dealing with this generation. I thought most of these folks are not on Facebook, that they've migrated to like TikTok and some other things. Is this true?
Yeah, so that's becoming an issue actually when people reach out to me on Instagram, like, hey, here's our Facebook support group. And they're like, I don't have Facebook. And I'm like, so
What are you gonna do?
yeah, I think I talked to Kyrie about this. I was like, if they have Discord, I'm sending them to you guys.
That's cool. We'll make a channel for you.
Yeah, I was gonna say we can put you right in.
That would be so cool. I need to get on Discord more. I feel like I get limited at 2 platforms, but I feel like I'm gonna have to trade Facebook for Discord pretty soon.
Cool. Okay, good. So we're solving real life issues on the
Yeah.
on the show. So okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for this. It's been enlightening. So much
Can I
that
invite
Well,
anybody to actually answer your question? Anybody listening, because I love that question. Can you restate it? The one that Jenna and I couldn't answer right now.
yeah, I may have to like cut this out and replay myself because I'll probably get it wrong. But basically, if you are at the table of the decision makers with Congress and DOD and potentially the White House, and they said, "You're right. How do we solve this problem of whoever comes in? They serve 1 day, 1 term, or 30 years. How do we ensure they have a voice within the system and when they leave?" Because it really hurts me to hear that a fellow servant did 4 years and feels like she has a struggle with identifying the honorableness of that service with the actions of some dishonorable people. How do we fix that? We need to fix that. That would be my question. And if anyone's listening can address that, reach out,
Yes.
because we do know a lot of people.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry for cutting you off, but I really want you to do that because you never know where the answer might come from, and you're connected enough to send it in.
Well, what's the
Yeah.
famous quote? Like, the brain that created the problem can't fix it, right? Like
Exactly,
something, right?
exactly.
Sorry,
And
Jen,
it
I
might
cut
be
you off.
fixed in a different industry that is related. You never, you never know.
Mhm. Yeah, we all need to work together. I'm definitely interested in hearing these answers as well.
Awesome. And I actually give a keynote next week to DoD leadership. So I might slide this in. I made a couple notes in my speech to include something like this. So you might live vicariously through me in a couple of days. So cool. Yeah.
And people are not really brave enough to talk about sexual issues of any kind. So that's a wonderful that you would even, consider putting it in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
it's a heavy topic.
Solidifying the notes. Okay, so that's a wrap, unless anyone has any other things they want to hit before we wrap it up. No.
Just one plug. We're in Chicago this weekend with the WarriorGMR Foundation at a event called Summer 50 Fest at United Center. They're expecting 10,000 people. Josh will be giving a clinic. I'll be giving a clinic, and our friends at Healthy Gamer are coming to hand out some of their really cool stuff. So I'm thrilled about that. And IIT Esports is coming, so it should be a lot of fun.
Great. And I'll put the link in the show notes if I can squeeze this episode out in time for folks to hear it before the event. If not, go there and see all the cool pictures and video, and those things are great. I can't believe how many people show up too. Like, it's incredible. So congrats on that, April. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
All right. And Warrior Gamer podcast out.
Warrior Gamer Headquarters podcast out.